with y'all? My name's Daevone, and I guess this case could leave us speechless. Let's get right into it.
Sometimes evil doesn't come from strangers. Sometimes it's someone who smiles at you every day, someone you think you know. This is the story of Alyssa Faye Shippert, a 22-year-old woman from Platte County whose ordinary day turned into a nightmare. It started out like any other warm spring afternoon in late May 2011. Alyssa, known to her friends and family as kind-hearted, down-to-earth, and always up for an outdoor adventure, decided to spend the day doing something she loved: fishing. She packed up her gear, got in her car, and drove out to the Platte Falls Conservation Area, a peaceful stretch of river.
She was a fisher, man. You guys could tell she had patience, man. You could tell she was kind. She probably released the fishes when she was done. Probably gonna keep them.
Where locals often went to unwind. Just her, the water, and the quiet. But as the hours passed, and Alyssa didn't come home, her family started to worry. Calls went unanswered, messages were left unread, and by nightfall they knew something wasn't right. The next day, June 1st, everything changed. Around lunchtime, a man walking near the riverbank spotted something in the water. What he saw would send shockwaves through Platte County. It was Alyssa. Her body was partially submerged downstream from where she'd been fishing, wearing only a bikini top. Nearby, her car sat untouched at the boat ramp, her fishing gear still inside. This wasn't an accident. That much was clear. The scene told a darker story, one of violence. And from that moment on, Platte County law enforcement launched one of the most unsettling investigations the area had ever seen. Alyssa had grown up in Platte City, Missouri, a small town where neighbors waved when you passed by.
So there's only three people who could have done this: close family member, a stranger, or what is it? Or a lover. That's what it is. A stranger, family member, or a lover. You know what I mean? So we're gonna find out.
And family names carried history. After high school, she didn't take the traditional path of college or an office job. Instead, she worked hard, steady, independent, and self-sufficient as a cashier at Casey's General Store in town. But Alyssa was more than her job. She was someone who found peace in the simple things: long days outside, time spent by the water, and the quiet satisfaction of casting a fishing line into the river she loved. That connection to nature said everything about her. She was grounded, straightforward, completely herself. Her family would later say that Alyssa lived life on her own terms, never pretending to be anyone she wasn't. Around noon, a man named Brian McKinney, who worked nearby, decided to take his usual lunch break walk. He often came here to stretch his legs.
We'll find out if Brian has something to do with this case. I don't know. First man, first name we got so far, he could be a suspect. He did find a body, I'm assuming. We could get into it. I don't know. You guys think he didn't?
And enjoy a bit of nature before heading back to work. As he made his way along the riverbank downstream from the boat ramp, something caught his eye. Something in the water that didn't look right. At first, he couldn't tell what it was, but as he stepped closer, the shape became clearer. Partially submerged, tangled against the bank, was a human body. Face down in the shallows, a woman. She was wearing only a bikini top, and even from where he stood, Brian could see the injuries. Brutal ones. In shock, he fumbled for his phone and called authorities immediately. Deputies from the Platte County Sheriff's Office arrived within minutes, their radios crackling as they secured the scene. The water that day wasn't rough. It flowed steadily, slow enough that investigators believed the body hadn't drifted far. They soon found her car parked nearby, untouched. Inside were her fishing supplies, everything neatly in place.
She was really just trying to enjoy enjoy life. She was really just trying to fish. That's so. I don't know how somebody could just decide to just, end it right there. Just decide that that's your last day. That's your last second. Your last thought. Your last breath. How can somebody decide that for you? It's not real, bro. It is real, but it's just not fair. She was just trying to fish, bro. Trying to fish. That's insane.
The woman was pronounced dead at the scene. At first glance, investigators could already tell this was no accident.
Look at her, bro. She was just, you could tell she was just somebody just you would just want to be around. Somebody would just lift you up. She's so beautiful.
The injuries pointed clearly to blunt
That's
force
insane.
trauma. But who was she? There were no personal
She like
belongings,
gives me
no
like
phone,
hippie
no
vibes.
ID,
She just likes to
nothing that could
chill.
tell them
Like
her
she'll
name.
just want to
So
connect with
deputies
nature and
began the
stuff. You know
process
what
of
I mean?
cross-referencing
Like
missing persons reports from the surrounding area. It didn't take long. The night before, a family had called in to report their daughter missing, 22-year-old Alyssa Faye Shippert. She hadn't come
mhm.
home after a day of fishing. Her phone went straight to voicemail. And now, with the car and description matching, a heartbreaking connection was made. Later, lab tests and dental records would confirm what everyone already feared. The woman
Yeah.
found along the Platte River was indeed Alyssa. Later that week, divers from the Missouri State Highway Patrol searched the riverbed
Dang, they
itself,
dived into it.
combing beneath the
Whoa.
surface for anything the current might have carried away.
They was diving in
Meanwhile,
that.
conservation rangers were interviewed about any
That
strange
obviously
activity
wasn't the
they'd
water.
noticed the days before Alyssa
Dang.
vanished. Investigators worked to piece together a timeline. Based on the river's current and temperature that spring, they believed her body had been in the water overnight. The flow of the Platte River, steady but not flooded from recent rains, suggested she may have entered the water near the boat ramp, only to
Yo,
drift
look at that
downstream
dog.
to where she
That
was
is not no
found.
dog.
As the day went
Yo, what the
on,
fuck is
authorities
wrong
held a
with that
press
dog?
briefing.
I'm so
Details were
sorry.
limited, but the
What was wrong
message
with
was
that dog's
clear.
face?
The investigation was active, and they needed the public's help. Detectives began chasing early leads. Reports of unfamiliar vehicles spotted near the boat ramp the day before Alyssa disappeared. But one by one, those leads went nowhere. Meanwhile, the medical examiner transported Alyssa's body to the morgue for a full autopsy. It would take a few days to complete, but even the initial findings were grim. The head injuries were severe, the kind caused by heavy, repeated impacts. Toxicology tests and other analyses would help refine the time and manner of death. Back at the riverbank, every piece of evidence collected was sent off.
They must have like snuck up on her or something. Like a hammer or some sort. That's so. I'm just sorry, man. All my condolences go out to her and her family. I just hope that she found paradise. You know what I mean? So unfortunate. I can't believe somebody really just decided that he's going to do it. I'm assuming it's a God that he's going to do it. Going to take somebody off this earth. You know what I mean? Who would think like that?
Just weeks earlier, she had cut her long hair to donate to cancer patients. She'd
Damn,
also been
you could
planning to
tell
help with
she
tornado
needs something
relief
like
efforts
that.
in Joplin, still reeling from the devastating storms that
Still
spring.
beautiful.
Her sister, Pam Clark, called Alyssa a free spirit, someone with a gentle heart and a love for the outdoors. She said her sister had no enemies, no grudges,
I must have
no
been her
signs of
sister.
trouble in her life. Detectives found no hint of family conflict, no disagreements, nothing that pointed to a reason someone would want to harm
Nah,
her.
I
So they
can't
shifted
stop, bro.
focus.
No. Look seriously, look at this dog. That is human lips. That is a human eye. That eye, bro. I know the quality is messed up, but bro,
To her friends. They heard the
that is
same
a
thing again and
koala's
again.
nose.
Alyssa was easygoing, kind, and genuine. She kept a simple routine: work, church, and family. No drama, no risky
Even
behavior.
church.
When
Even got
investigators
church in the
asked about her
routine.
love life, her
Damn,
friends
bro.
hesitated. But not
Just
because
so
they
she
were
found
hiding anything.
paradise.
There just wasn't much to say. Alyssa wasn't dating anyone
So good.
seriously, and no recent relationships stood
Damn.
out. At Casey's General Store in Platte City, where she'd worked for several years, coworkers described her as dependable, funny, and well-liked. She'd chat with regulars, crack jokes behind the counter, and never seemed to have a
Yeah.
problem with anyone. As the weeks turned into months, the investigation started to stall. Summer passed, and with it, the hope of new leads. Detectives went over everything again: phone records, autopsy reports, timelines. Alyssa's last calls had been routine, quick check-ins with family before heading out to the river. And while
Wow.
the autopsy confirmed severe blunt force
So
trauma,
sorry.
no weapon was ever found. The case was
Got
growing
nice
cold.
skin,
Then, just after
nice
Christmas,
eyes,
December
nice
26th,
smile.
2011, around 4 in the morning, a
Wow.
call came in that changed everything. Deputies were dispatched to an apartment in Farrellview, just 10 miles from Platte City. Inside, they found a young woman, 21 years old,
12208.
brutally attacked, her abdomen slashed open with a razor. She was barely alive. Paramedics rushed her to the hospital, where she
I hope
clung
she
to life for
survived.
days. Her boyfriend told investigators he'd spoken to her earlier that night, around 1:30 a.m., and that she'd mentioned a male acquaintance
Wow.
stopping by. When the victim finally regained consciousness on December 30th, she was weak, but she managed to whisper a name, the name of the man who had attacked her. That name
Yeah.
stopped investigators cold. Quentin Odell. It was a name they already knew from Alyssa's case.
Look at
Odell
this
wasn't a
guy,
stranger.
bro. Look like scum, bro. Got a ginger beard with brown hair or black hair, maybe, bro. Like you could, like, bro, you don't even go together, bro. Like, come on, gang. Like, how do you just decide what you want to do with somebody else's life? Like, it don't even like who who does that, bro? Who decides that? Who are you, monster? Look at this. Makes
He'd
me
worked
sick.
alongside Alyssa at Casey's General Store in Platte City. They weren't close, but they'd
They were
spent time around each other,
co-workers.
enough for him to know her habits, her routine,
Uh,
even where she liked to fish.
he
People
just
who knew
stared at
Quentin
her, just
described him as
watched her
quiet,
probably.
someone who blended in, polite, unremarkable, the kind of person you wouldn't look twice at. He had no criminal record, no known history of violence,
Look at this
which made
dude.
what came next even harder to believe. Because Quentin Odell wasn't just connected to Alyssa through work, he also knew her family. He'd crossed paths with her sister in school,
Man,
grown up
look
in the
how
same
pretty she
small-town
is, bro.
circles. And now, with this new attack, his name was suddenly at the center of two horrifying
Like,
crimes.
why?
Quentin Odell wasn't just a co-worker. He'd actually been inside the Shippert family's home. He'd spoken with Alyssa's father, shared small-town pleasantries, the kind of simple exchanges that showed just how close-knit Platte County really was. During the interrogation sessions on January 5th and 6th, Odell finally opened up.
2012
What he told investigators would leave them
opened up.
stunned. He said that on that warm afternoon in May, he'd gone down to the river and unexpectedly crossed paths with Alyssa while she was fishing. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary, but according to his account, he jumped into the water, and for reasons that still baffle investigators, he pretended to drown. When he resurfaced, the situation took a dark turn. Odell claimed that as tension rose, the two reached for the hatchet he'd been carrying on his belt. He told detectives that he struck Alyssa once, a blow to the back of her head. She fell
With
to
a
the ground,
hatchet.
crying and in pain. Then, in chilling detail, he described getting down beside her and striking her again and again in the face until she was silent. When it was over, he dragged her body into the river, then went home to Platte City, took a shower, and went to bed, as if nothing had happened. In a later
Good shot, bro. You knew her routine. He knew she was gonna beat her. He walked his fat ass over there, drove his fat ass over there, went down there, went to the water, bro. Pulled his hatchet out as she was trying to save him, bro, or whatever. Struck her in the back of her head. Bro, she somehow was able to regain, like, keep her conscious and was crying, bro. Crying. And you don't even stop, bro. Like, you hear it. Hey, that is your natural defense. It's the only thing you could do when you can't do nothing. Is cry. That is the last thing you got. It's your last please. Just wasn't enough. He looked at her and
version of his story, Odell told investigators that Alyssa had made him angry during their encounter, that something she said or did triggered him, causing him to lash out. He insisted it wasn't planned, that it all happened in the heat of the moment, but prosecutors saw it differently. He'd brought the hatchet with him.
nah,
He'd chosen violence, and to them, that spoke of premeditation, not
sure
impulse.
did.
Months later, when Odell attacked another woman in her Fairview apartment that December, the same violent pattern played out again. At first, He told investigators he had visited the 21-year-old
What
that
the
night, but
hell?
left before anything happened, that she was alive when he walked out the door. But under further questioning, the truth began to crack.
That don't
He
even
said
make
he'd overheard
sense.
her arguing with a recent boyfriend over the phone. The argument, he claimed, set him off. In a burst of rage, he grabbed a razor blade from a table and slashed her before walking out, leaving her to die. The next morning, he noticed blood on his hands and shirt. He threw the shirt away, trying
This nigga's crazy, bro. Nigga's actually insane, bro. He don't deserve to live, bro. I don't even like everybody deserves to live, bro. I don't want to say that, but there's just no redeeming. There's just no going. No, there's no going back. No, it's impossible. There's no going back.
to erase what he'd done. But this time, he hadn't covered his tracks
Doing
well
it, you
enough. The
pretend you
survivor
never
lived,
remember it.
and she named him. That confession tied Quentin Odell to not one, but two brutal attacks, and to the murder of Alyssa Faye Shippert. Once that connection was made, authorities wasted no time. Odell was taken into custody, and Platte County finally had the name behind one of its darkest crimes. On January 7, 2012, deputies officially charged 22-year-old
We gonna
Quentin
wave 'em
Odell with
off.
first-degree murder and armed criminal action in connection to Alyssa's death.
Yeah,
He also
see it,
faced
buddy.
similar charges for the violent assault that took place the previous December. Then, in June of 2012, prosecutors added even more counts related to that second attack, including
more
forcible
counts.
sodomy based on evidence of sexual assault
What they say? Sodomy. We got what?
uncovered through hospital records and forensic testing. The victim's statement supported those findings, painting a clear and devastating picture of what she endured. Odell's bond was set at $2 million, reflecting just how serious the charges were. From that point on, he remained in custody as the legal process unfolded. In Alyssa's case, however, no sexual charges were filed. The autopsy determined her cause of death to be multiple blunt force injuries to the head. There was no evidence of sexual assault, and Odell's
Yeah,
own
'cause he ain't
confession
wanna
made
do
no
nothing in
mention
the
of
mud.
one. He told investigators
Disgusting.
it was a confrontation that spiraled out of control, that he struck her with the hatchet and dragged her body into the river. When she was found, Alyssa was partially clothed, wearing only her bikini top. But that aligned with what everyone knew about her plans that day. A warm afternoon by the river, out fishing alone. Investigators believe her lower clothing may have been lost either during the struggle or carried away by the current. Still, the brutality of what had happened shook the entire community.
why,
Platte County
bro?
prosecutor Eric Zond pushed for the death penalty, calling the crimes calculated, cold, and devastating to the community.
Yeah.
He argued that Odell's use of weapons and the sheer level of violence involved warranted the harshest punishment allowed under Missouri law. In court,
Hate it.
the state painted a chilling picture of Quentin Odell, a man who had taken advantage of trust. He'd known Alyssa through work, and prosecutors argued that connection made his actions even more disturbing. They pointed out how both attacks, months apart, showed a clear pattern of deliberate violence. The defense, however, tried to steer the story in another direction.
How can
Odell's
you defend
attorneys
this?
didn't deny what happened,
Nah,
but
bro. What the fuck? How can you defend this shit, bro? That shit makes me sick. There is no defending this. You live waking up. Make the choice that you're standing behind this guy.
they pushed to spare him from execution. They emphasized that he had no prior criminal record and that his
It don't
version of
matter.
events suggested moments of reactive violence, not premeditated murder. They warned that if the
No.
case went to a full jury trial, the
Nigga
emotional
walked
impact
over
of the
there.
testimony could easily lead to a
You
death
fucking-
sentence. So, they pursued a plea deal. And in the end, it worked. On January 24th, 2013, inside the Platte County Circuit Court, Quentin Odell stood before the judge and pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, 2 counts of armed criminal action, first-degree assault, and forcible sodomy tied to both crimes.
Wow.
In
Tied
exchange,
to both.
prosecutors agreed to drop their pursuit of the death penalty. Instead, Odell was
That could be like
sentenced to
100
life in
years.
prison without the possibility of parole for Alyssa's murder, plus an additional 100 years for the remaining charges to be served consecutively.
Let's
During
go,
sentencing,
baby. I
Odell
already knew that.
apologized to
Had
Alyssa's
to give
family,
us 100.
to his surviving victim,
Had
and
to
to the
give us
community his
100.
actions had shattered. Judge Abe Schaefer
Let's
accepted the
go.
plea and imposed the sentence right there in court, making it official. Quentin Odell would spend the rest of his life behind bars in a Missouri state prison.
Moral of the story is, you're not special. Everybody's unique. And that, so everybody look, he is special, but that's what makes everybody not special. Everybody's unique. Everybody got their own choices. Everybody wakes up and makes different choices. No two people wake up and make the exact same choices. So don't take that away from somebody. Make your choices, make them good. Just try to be better. Don't end up like this guy. Hope you guys appreciate this video. If you guys want more like this, just let me know. Subscribe for more. Leave a comment. That I read all my comments. That just, gives me direct word. You know what I'm saying? You guys could like it too. But that's gonna be the end of this video. I appreciate you guys for watching till the end. And see ya!